Hi everyone, thanks for joining us today. Welcome to Perennia's very first webinar of the Idea to Market series, provided to you by the Agri-Food Funding Program. Today we will be learning about the first phase of new food product development, which is idea development. My name is Emily Page and I'm a food scientist with Perennia Food and Agriculture. We offer a wide array of services to support Nova Scotia's agriculture and seafood sectors, such as food safety, agriculture extension, mobile wine bottling, analytical testing of cannabis, foods, and beverages. Here at the Perennia Food and Beverage Innovation Center, we work with clients on product development, process improvement, nutritional labeling, and shelf life determination. In today's webinar, we will learn about the Idea to Market Success Map, which will help you screen ideas for the best opportunity entering new product development. I'd like to introduce our presenter for this series, Gary Morton of Morton Horticultural Associates. Gary has worked in agriculture for 40 years, helping farms and food businesses across Canada find new value, success, and profit from what they do. Lastly, just some housekeeping notes for using Zoom. If you have a question during this session, please use the Q&A button, which is located at the bottom of your Zoom window. I will be monitoring the questions throughout the webinar for Gary. However, we will answer most of them at the end of the presentation. This webinar series will be recorded and posted to our YouTube channel, so you can replay it later or share it with your friends and colleagues who couldn't join us today. And with that, I'll pass it off to you, Gary.
Thank you, Emily. And thank you, Perennia, for asking me to undertake this series. And this series is based on a lot of work and, as Emily mentioned, 40 years of experience working with new product development and working with new product developers, actually across Canada. So I really am enjoying and looking forward to this session, and I'm glad that people have come. And I'd like to share experiences that I've learned, observed, and help people to be able to reduce the risk around new product development. I'd like to mention that we will have a resource guide available at the end of the presentation to download that will have some of the information that we're talking about and some extra additional information to help you in your journey of developing your new ideas. Today, I'm going to ask you, why are you here? And I'm guessing that you're here for a couple of reasons. Either you're looking for an idea that you want to develop, a food and beverage idea is pretty much what we're focused on here, or you have one that's burning a hole in your pocket and you're not really sure what to do with it or what's the next step to take. And as I was mentioning, in my experience, I've watched over the years people develop new products and ideas, and I've been involved in them. And there's many pitfalls that people make along the way. So I've put together this success map to help you navigate through some of the things that you're going to need to go through to be successful on the other end. So new product development is not a linear process. Sometimes people think it is. They think it's a straightforward 1-2 step by step, but it's a circular process. It's a process of testing, assessing what you're doing, reworking what you've come up with, and then it's either a stop or go forward or go backward, or it could actually send you back to the drawing board in many cases. And you've probably seen other programs out there around this stop and go type of thing, and to help you develop new products. But I've often found some of those are really a bit more complicated than they need to be, and they've also been a bit more challenging for smaller business to implement in the process. So I really tried to simplify this whole process down to make it as easy as possible for you to move your ideas forward, to reduce the risk, and to have the most success. The new product success map looks like this, and it's a circular process, but it's also a circular process at each one of the steps. Today we're looking at idea development, but you can see in there that there's 4 main things that I've scaled this down to. And I've simplified some of these things down as much as I can to be able to do in these webinars in the time frame that we have. Under idea development, we're going to be looking at the creative environment that you're going to be dealing with. Idea scouting, which is looking for new ideas and where do I find them? Targeting that customer, aligning that idea with that target customer. And then how do I screen these ideas to make it so that I can actually find the best ones for me and for my business to move forward. But the other things we're going to be talking about in future webinars are product development, which is we're going to be looking at you taking the prototype, validating that prototype, looking at how we'd set some pricing, and then where are you going to get help to develop that product. And that leads you on to essential plans, which we'll be looking at business models and marketing, sales plans, scale-up plan, and the food safety plan, which are all really critical to moving your product forward. And then finally, as you get your product launched into the marketplace, how you're going to grow your sales, make it better, and then continue to grow your business, because you can see at the center of this is your business. And you have to remember that a product is not a business, and that you need to be looking at building a strong business in support of your product. So new product development has to start with why. And that's really important that we start with why. I mean, if we think back about when we were 2 years old, and we probably can't, or maybe you've had children, at that 2-year-old time, everybody's asking why, and it actually encourages answers. When you ask questions, answers come out of it. So it's really important that we start with why, of why are you doing this? And I have this little diagram here, which is it's sort of an evolution of Simon Sinek, an author that talks about this a lot. And I've added a little bit to it, but it's pretty much his concept here. And we look at why are we doing this? Why do you want to develop a new product in the first place? What's it going to do for your business? What's it going to do for you? And we're going to be exploring these things today to help you understand that you're in the right mindset to be able to make this happen. And then the next key thing is to look at who are you making it for. So we need to have a target customer, and it's really important that you have a customer that this product is specifically for. Then when we look at how, as we're coming out from why here, the reason we're looking at how is, do you have the resources to be able to make all this happen? This isn't something that's doesn't require resources. It's going to take time and energy and money, and you need to be able to move it forward. And that finally takes you to what. So if you know the why, who, and how, then you can start to think about what we're going to do. And it's very easy for people to jump right to the what and start to try to solve problems for people or before they or create solutions before they actually even know what the problem is. I'd also like to share the progression of value diagram here. And this shows partly why we're trying to look at new ideas and innovations, is because you're trying to get away from commodity. If you look at the triangle here, that commodity is where most of the competition is. And as a result, there's very little differentiation, and the return tends to be very small at that level. But as you move up the triangle, you're going to add differentiation to your products, which could be in the case of, it could be gluten-free, or it could be value add, or it could be, organic or natural. And you're starting to differentiate it from a commodity product, which means you're going to get a higher value than you would at the commodity level. As you start to move up to value adding, which usually means you're changing the form of the product, you're starting to see that there's fewer people that are going to do that, but the returns are much higher as you go up there. Then finally, if you can get up to that point where you can create really unique experiences for people with your products, that's where the biggest value is. So we're trying to look at this progression of value all the time as we're developing new products to get ourselves away from the commodity, which is the low value, which means it's a high volume and low value and you're competing with other people. But as you move up through differentiation and value adding and experiential, you're starting to see that there's fewer people at the top, but that's where the most value is back to you. The other question, or why you need to ask here, is what's your end game? And it can be a really big maze when you're developing new products of where are you going and why are you doing this? And it's almost like you need a combination to the lock to unlock it. And the combination I've got here is 30, 20, 10, 5, 3, 1. And it's not that it's a combination, it's where do you want to be when you're developing this product in 30 years? Because that determines where you're going to be in 20 years, where you're going to be in 10 years, where you're going to be in 5 years, 3 years, 1 year. where you're going to be in 6 months, or where you need to be in 6 months, where you need to be next week, what you need to do tomorrow, and actually what are the actions you need to take today to start to get you moving forward. You may not want to be looking out 30 years, but if it's 10 years or whatever that number is, but knowing the end game is going to really help you decide where it is you have to be, and it'll help you choose the idea or product that you want to do. Because if it's not congruent with your goals and things that you want, 30 years or 20 years doing something you don't like is a long time. I really believe that the reason that you're developing new products is for one of three things here. And it's mostly around the gold, and you'll see what I mean in the next couple of slides. The ability, gold is this new product or idea that you're trying to develop is going to earn gold to give you the ability to earn a good living for you and your family. And you need to be able to, whatever this product is, it has to be able to generate gold or revenues that are going to help you have that good living. We also need to be generating money with this product or revenues or gold to put money away for your retirement, which is your gold watch. So whatever you're doing in here, this new idea is probably going to turn into some kind of product or maybe into a business, and it needs to return these things that you would need to exist and to move your ideas and your family and your everything forward. And then finally, the third G is the gold mine, which I call accumulating and positioning your business assets to pass on or to sell to other people. And this is basically meaning that you're trying to build a business that you can actually sell, because products do come and go, but over the long term, the businesses usually usually continue to exist. So they'll be developing new products, and this could be one of the reasons you're here today, is you're looking for a new product to kind of take your business to the next step. But if we go back and think of your new idea, you want it to generate gold for an income, it want to generate gold for the gold mine, and it want to generate gold for your retirement. A product is not a business, as I said. If you think about all the different pieces that are here, the product is just one little piece. That business is at the core, but we also have to think about the entrepreneur, what he needs, the customer, what they need. You have to market it, we have to sell, and we have to grow, and we have to move everything forward. The new product success map, as I mentioned, and we're focusing on idea development today. I want to talk first about the creative environment. And we're in an era of unprecedented change, and there's lots of things going on. But I can tell you from my years of experience, innovation is not an option. You have to continually be innovating your products, because no matter what, and on the other side we come out of things, people will continue to eat, drink, and want new products. The truth is that most new products will fail. And I don't mean this as a downer, but if this is the case, then this little quote kind of helps out here. If I knew I was going to die, then I would not go there. And what we want to focus on is, what do people do that succeed? So that's what I'm going to talk about today. New product developers that succeed. What are the things that they do that help them succeed? Here's a quote by George Cobb from Cobb International. They're a poultry company. And George used to say, nothing profitable is ever easy. If it was, then I'd have to do it, or then everybody would do it. And we would have to find something hard to do so we could have a competitive advantage. And the key here is to have a competitive advantage. Whatever you're doing with a new product idea, that you need to develop some form of competitive advantage. The most dangerous new product developer is the one with an idea and it's their only idea. And what I'm talking about here is, don't fall in love with your product. Don't fall in love with your idea, because there's tons of ideas out there. The world is full of ideas. But if you focus on yours as the only idea, then you're going to have a challenge trying to move forward, because you're not going to be making the right decisions. You're going to be a bit biased about things. And you have to be prepared to cut the strings and to move on to new ideas if the old one doesn't work. There's also the Christopher Columbus syndrome. And Christopher Columbus syndrome, I describe it this way. He didn't know where he was going. He didn't know where he was when he got there. He didn't know where he had been. And it didn't matter because he did it on federal funding. And the important point here is the funding. do you have the resources to make this all happen? Most people that are successful at new product development will actually have the resources. They have the ability to get the resources. So if you're looking at trying to develop a new idea, where are you going to get the resources? Where are you going to get the funding? The federal funding can help, but it's not going to answer everything. Here's another one. Everything that can be invented has been invented. This was a statement by Charles H. Durrell in 1899 from the Commissioner of the US Patent Office. And Charles told the president at that time, he said, because everything that has been invented or can be invented has been invented, I suggest that you shut down the patent office because there's no longer any need for it. And we know that since 1899, almost everything in the world has been invented since then. So getting stuck in old thinking, you need to open your mind to new opportunities. Everyone is not your customer. We need to look at things and thinking about, just because we're producing a food product doesn't mean that everybody's going to want to eat your food product. So the riches are in the niches. So if you can target down to a specific customer, just pick out one of these people in this crowd and say, what is it that they need and how can we service them best? Chasing shiny objects. You need to have lots of focus. Successful people developing new products get very focused. They screen their products down over time and they keep focusing down to stay on one thing. They try not to get distracted by too many other things. It's so easy to get distracted today. You just open the internet and turn it on and there's so many things streaming at you. But you need to keep validating your ideas as you move forward, stay focused, and when something doesn't work, you go to something else. But until it's proven wrong, you keep moving on that focus. Make it and they will come. And I've seen this so often, and it's sad actually when it happens sometimes, is people just keep moving forward without validating their idea properly in the marketplace. My suggestion here is build the market before you build the factory. I've seen many people spend a lot of money building a factory only to find out at the end that their product doesn't sell. The purpose of what I'm trying to share with you here today is we want it to be so that when you produce a product that customers are there to be able to buy it and they want it. New product developers are also aware, or successful ones are aware, that there's an effort to get your product on the shelf. To get it in front of the customer, you have to spend some time and money and effort to get yourself out in front of those people. So you have to be able to market your products. And a lot of people don't like marketing products. They like to make products, but they don't like to market them. So you have to get somebody on your team that is actually going to be able to sell your product for you. And then the other one, on the other flip side here, is that once it's on the shelf, it's your responsibility still to ensure that the customer is going to come and buy that product or the pull off the shelf. Often you'll see people say, well, I got it in the grocery store and I hit a home run and I'm laughing. Well, not really, because if that product doesn't sell, then you won't be in the grocery store very long. So you still have to have a marketing effort or promotional effort to make sure that the customer comes in and wants to buy that product at that store. And it doesn't matter whether you're selling direct to the customer or you're selling through retail chains or whatever, it's still your job to ensure that that product comes off that shelf. The lowest price is the law, and this isn't the case. If you're fighting to have the lowest price, then you're going to be out of business before you know it. You want to create value, and your product is priced based on your value, and you compete on value. People that have huge resources are going to outcompete you on price all the time, so get that one out of the way right off the bat. Even a poor plan is better than no plan, and I've seen this so often. I've heard it all over the years. Well, by the time I get my plan done, it's out of date, and so I'm not going to bother writing a plan. Poor plan is better than no plan, and you do need to have some kind of planning to make sure that you're following the steps. This is what we're talking about here in this webinar series. We're following the success map so that you have some kind of plan of where you're going and what you're going to do for the next step. In our essential plans webinar, which is the third webinar series, we'll be talking about planning, and we'll be talking about the plans that you really do need and the plans that you don't need. So there'll be some options to look at there. Fake news. And this is what I'm saying here is that you want to really be careful about who you're listening to about things. You want to make sure that your products, the information that you're basing things on is based on real fact, that you're validating things on the truth. Because it's very easy to listen to the people around you, and those are the people that can maybe give you an unbiased opinion. Your family's going to say that, hey, this is a great idea because they don't want to hurt your feelings. Your staff may be scared to say anything to you because they don't want to lose their jobs. But the person that you need to listen to most, and this is why you have to test your product as much as you can and be prepared to go out and get negative response if it's going to happen, or the positive response. But you have to test it with the people that are actually willing to give you money to buy this new product. And that's the only way you're going to validate this. Another thing to do is to remember that your world is not the world. It's a really big world out there. There's a lot of things going on. It's a global economy in most cases, and it will be, if it's not today, it will be again. And you need to think about pushing yourself outside of your box a little bit so that you can see things a little bit differently. Life is just too short to do things that you don't like to do or to make products that no one wants to buy. So these are why you have to start to watch all these pitfalls. And this is why successful value adders understand the things that we just talked about, and they implement them every day, and they watch out for them, and they manage them. There's 5 things that I call the magic 5 here that you really need to get in line when you're developing new products. You need to have a clear vision and a plan. You need to have resources and skills to be able to make some things happen. You need to have an entrepreneurial mindset to sort of drive and champion the project. You need a unique value proposition so you have a competitive advantage. And you need to have a target market so that there's somebody that wants to buy this product. So if you have 4 of the 5, you're still never really going to be successful, because if you don't have a clear vision and plan and you have all the rest, you're going to have confusion. If you don't have the resources and skills, but you have all the rest, you're going to have frustration. If you don't have the entrepreneurial mindset and you have all the other 4, then you don't have a champion to drive your project. If you have a unique value proposition, but you don't have the clear plan or the resources, the mindset, or the target market, you don't have a competitive advantage. And then if you have that target market, but you don't have all the other things, you don't really have, or if you don't have a target market, you just don't have that opportunity. So think about these 5, and they're very important things to consider. The market entry risk matrix. And this is one of the things that I'd like to point out here, is how your product is going to get into the marketplace. And if you take existing products to existing customers, that's the least risky way. And if you think back to that triangle I was showing you, it's really where commodity products are at. So there's the least risk, but there's also the least return. If you take new products to existing customers, you're talking about change and you're talking about differentiation. It's a little bit more risky, but those people know your product and know you, even though you're taking a new product to them. And they're more likely to buy those products. As you take new products to new customers, it becomes riskier again. But the riskiest is taking new products to totally new customers, because you're talking about really innovation here. And there may be a lot of education that's required about your product with the customer. Some of the things that I think you need to have on the radar screen as well are, what's the future marketplace looking like? What's going on out there in the marketplace? Is the world changing? I mean, right now, the world is in a particular spot, but is that going to be like that forever? Over 40 years, I've watched the marketplace change up and down, and things are different, but it keeps moving forward. And you need to understand that where this new product is going to fit in that marketplace. Technologies are driving things, and they're changing things ever so quickly, whether it's producing products or producing your ingredients, and they'll have an impact. The circular economy, when we're starting to look at recycling, it's going to drive the packaging and the use of your products with many customers. The Internet of Things, what are how are people going to learn about this product or use this product, and what kind of connections are going to be with, it could be that the refrigerator is going to be ordering the grocery list in the future. And blockchain and big data, where it's managing the information that's out there, you have to think about how you're going to connect up with all these things. Food safety is critical. It's not going to go away, and you can't let it go by the wayside. And global competition is one that it wanes and it goes back and forth, and we go to local and then we go to global, and we're probably back to local again to some degree. But they're all things you need to understand and have on your radar screen when you're developing new products. Product fads. And I just want to point out that, is this a fad? You know, a fad is a widely shared but short-lived enthusiasm craze for product without any basis on product quality or value. And you can probably think about lots of fads, and it can be a trap for people. Sometimes you see something that's happening and it just kind of disappears. I think you can always think of I go back and think about the pet rock, where people went crazy about a pet rock for years, and a year or two there, but it faded out and just totally disappeared. So fads are things that totally disappear. We're looking for trends or movements in a general marketplace where something is actually developing or changing. So we're starting to see the trends in, I would say, gluten-free food and organic and local food have been trends that have been going on for a long time, because sometimes people used to say those were fads years ago, but no, they're actually trending forward. Oh. Paradigm shifts are another one. And these are changes in one way of thinking in society, like they're big shifts in society. So this is when a whole group of people start to think something different. An example I could give here would be, the old thinking might be, we'll go back to Christopher Columbus. The world was flat, but when Christopher Columbus went out and sailed around the world, he proved that it was round, and it changed the paradigm thinking about the world. The landline telephone was the way people communicated when I was younger. The cell phone or the smartphone is how people communicate now, and almost nobody has a landline anymore. So it's a total shift in thinking of the way things are. Local food was originally an old way of thinking. If we go way, way back, then it shifted to global food. And then it's probably going to shift back more to local food as we move forward into the future. So understanding these paradigm shifts and where your product might fit into those is important. There are two new product choices when you're developing a new product. And these are like, you're going to create a product and find a customer, which tends to be the harder one, because this is where you tend to fall into a lot of the traps of falling in love with your product and believing that this is the one, and then having to go look for a customer, or making something that a customer wants to buy. And this involves you actually going and understanding what that customer wants, and then designing your products very closely and aligning them with what that customer need is, so that you can have a product, when you take it to the market, you know that there's somebody there that wants to buy it, and you can target them, versus having to create a product and assuming that everybody wants to buy it and thinking that this is the best thing since Swiss cheese or sliced cheese, and then trying to find a customer that it fits with. And that can be a big challenge. What we usually find is this is a combination of the two. You probably have a product idea, then you've got to go out and find a customer that wants it. You got to validate it back and forth, and you're tweaking the product, and you keep working with it as you're moving forward, so that you have, at the end, you have a product that somebody wants to buy. I'm going to talk about idea scouting here now, and where do ideas come from? So for the next 10 minutes or so here, we're going to talk about idea scouting, the target customer, and screening those ideas. And idea scouting lots of times is, I mean, some people, like I mentioned at the very beginning, some people have an idea that's burning a hole in their pocket, but a lot of people don't. And a lot of people have trouble finding new ideas. In reality, there's tons of ideas out there. Once you sort of open up your thinking to where are these ideas and how do I look for them, you'll find that there's lots of ideas, and you don't need to get sort of stuck on one idea, because in the idea development world, you want to be able to cut your ties with the idea and move forward. And the idea you start out with is probably not the one you're going to end up with. There's just tons of reiterations of that idea along the way. So scouting for ideas is basically shaking the trees and kicking the bushes and trying to find those ideas that are out there somewhere. You're trying to look at new perspectives. And this could be You go look at magazines read magazines that you never read before. You could watch channels on the TV that you've never watched before. Things to give you new perspectives. Travel to different places when you can. And product ideas that you're looking for are ones that are really exceptional, that are going to take that customer on a transformational journey. Customers have problems, or they have needs or wants or things, and you're looking to create an idea that's going to take them somewhere special. There's 6 elements that really drive creativity and innovation, and you probably have commonly seen all these or experienced all these, but the first one is needs. Our needs and necessities of life, the requirements of life. These are the things that drive our needs. So if we have a need and it's not being met, then that drives creativity to satisfy that need. Problems. We have pressing problems, and in efforts to avoid the pain of those problems, we try to find solutions to those problems. Desires. We have desires which are in the pursuit of pleasure and happiness. So when we want something and it's not available or it's not out there, then we try to we look for things that can actually satisfy those desires. And I will tell you that people probably will go a lot farther to avoid pain than to actually pleasure and happiness, but they're two together, and they're important to consider when you're looking for new ideas. Circumstances in life occurrences, stuff happens. Like when things happen and you've got to deal with it, that's when we get creative and we come up with innovative ways to solve those problems. Questioning or challenging accepted assumptions. This gets us over dogma and past all these things we're basically holding us back because our thinking is just limiting us. And then finally, dissatisfaction. We want something more, we want something better. And these are the these are the 6 things that typically drive innovation and new creativity. The needs, problems, our desires, circumstances, questioning, and dissatisfaction. I'm suggesting that you expand your worldview when you're looking for new ideas. And if you thought about, you live in a little bubble that you exist in pretty much every day. You go to work, you go to your club if you want, your health club, or you go to the coffee shop, and your family does certain things and you have certain friends. And that bubble kind of insulates you in a certain area. And what you need to do, and it's really what you know in that bubble. If you want to get a new perspective on things, you have to be able to break that bubble and push yourself to somewhere that's uncomfortable. And that will take you, it'll take you to a new zone. And what you don't know. Like, it's usually a zone that's kind of scary out there for you. And you know it's out there, but you are scared to go there in most cases, or go out and experience things. But once you go to somewhere like that, you become comfortable with being uncomfortable. And then finally, you need to push yourself to that zone that you don't even know what's out there. And that can be totally scary sometimes, but that's where a lot of new innovation comes from, is that you push yourself to zones that are uncomfortable. You get yourself out of the common thinking that you've had, and that's where you get the new innovative ideas. I'm asking you to think outside the box. You've heard that all the time, but I'm also asking you to think inside the box, into the corners and the places that maybe other people have overlooked, and maybe there's some stuff hiding in there somewhere that you just actually haven't looked at before. And you also need to ask yourself, am I even in the right box? When I'm looking for new ideas, like maybe I'm totally in the wrong box in this limitation. I've got to find another box to kind of go and explore and examine. If you're having trouble with ideas, I would suggest brainstorming. And this is in the resource guide that you're going to be able to download a little bit later. There's the steps of how to go through brainstorming and to take a group of people through and help you create a pool of ideas. And what you want when you're brainstorming is to find a pool of ideas. No ideas are bad. Everything is on the table, and you want to get as many as possible. And through these brainstorming exercises, like I said, you're going to create a big pool of ideas. Then you start the process of screening those ideas down based on your criteria that you have of something that is worthy of further development. And brainstorming is a great way to take a group of people. You'll be surprised at how many ideas you'll come up with if you get a group of people together and to start to talk about what, the challenges that you have or the ideas that are out there, And you'll be very surprised at the big list of ideas that you'll come up with through this process. The target customer. And as I mentioned, you can develop a product and go look for a customer, or you can find a customer problem and you can create a solution to that in your product. So you're going to need to have a target customer involved in here at some point, no matter which way you're coming at this. So the target customer is critically important because that is the person that's going to be buying your product in the end. So you want to go through a process of defining who that customer is. Now, I'm just going to give you a little definition here. Consumers are really the end users of your product. So the ultimate person using your new product or new innovation is going to be the consumer. But the customer is the person you are directly selling your product to. And it could be an agent, a broker, distributor, wholesaler, retailer, or when you're selling direct, the consumer is actually your customer. So it could get confusing sometimes, the terms that go back and forth here. And in most cases, I'm going to just talk about them all as a customer. The target customer. What customer is ready for a transformational journey? Like, what are the important problems that they have out there that your product is going to solve for them? People really look for solutions, not products when they're out. Even though they're buying products, they're looking to have that product be a solution to something, an issue that they have. It'll help them make a food product, make a great meal for their family. It will help them satisfy a need. So these are the reasons that you're trying to find, explore into the customer, and you want to build a customer profile. And there's a little sheet to help you in the resource guide to help you build a customer profile. But life is too short, as I said earlier, to make products that people don't want to buy. So if you're trying to create products and push them onto customers, that's kind of the old way of thinking. The way we need to look at things to be successful is to say, what is this customer need and how am I going to fill that need? As your job as a product producer and seller is, when you're talking about the customer, you have basically 4 needs that you have to satisfy here. You have to find and attract customers. You have to convert those customers into sales, and you have to deliver on your customer promises, and then you have to retain those customers. So to create a product and just push it on somebody for the first time and just say, hopefully that and even if they do buy it, you can see that it's really important that you retain them as customers long-term. So your products have to satisfy those needs. So it's really important to go back and make sure all the time that you're aligning that product with a customer need, you're checking it all the time, and you're validating with that customer. Idea screening. And this is where you take that big pool of products or ideas that you've gathered in your idea generation stage, and you screen them down to the ones that best fit your criteria. Again, in a resource guide, you're going to have a little tool to help you there to set your own criteria up to help you screening your ideas. You need to ask, is your product going to be a customer problem solver or another customer problem? And this is when you're screening the ideas down. It's one of the key things that you're thinking about as you're going forward. Here's a little list of things that when you're starting to screen ideas, like I said, you have this big pool of ideas out there, and the job now is, okay, how do I start to focus these down to the 1 or 2 ideas that I'd like to focus on and move forward? So if you start to think about the ideas and you screen them against some of these criteria, you go, what's the customer problem this idea is addressing? Does the product offer a decent solution, a solution that's different than other people are offering? And then what's the opportunity for my business and for me as we're doing this? And that will help you go through the ideas and say, this is something that's good for me. So what is that customer problem that this product or idea is going to solve? Does the product give it an exceptional solution, which would be something with a competitive advantage, I would say here? And what is the opportunity that is in it for me? Because if I'm going to spend a lot of time developing a new product, it's got to have something that comes back to the 3 Gs, if you want to look at that again. It's got to develop an income stream for me. It's got to develop money for retirement. And it's got to help me develop some assets that are going to be part of my long-term revenues as well, is that, or creating a business that I can pass on to or sell to somebody else. So these are the points when we're starting to look at idea screening. And just to reiterate here and come back, you went through an idea development process of scouting and looking for ideas and trying to find lots of ideas. Then you sort of align which of these ideas align with that customer need and the needs that I can recognize out there. And then you'd start to screen all that information down by asking these questions that we have here on the screen right now and helping you to focus these down to just one or two at the most products. Because the next step is you're going to have to create a prototype that you can take to the market and test and validate your assumptions. In the food industry, basically, it's pretty hard to say, people want to see a prototype. They want to taste it. They want all the senses out there. So you need to be able to get to the point where you have some really good ideas that you can take to a prototype, but you also want to know that you've validated them to some degree along the way so that at least there is an alignment with a customer need and that these products are worthy of taking them to the next step, which is product development, which is webinar number 2, which will be taking place next week. So I'd like to thank you for this point, and I'd like to turn it back to, oh, wait, sorry, I forgot I had another couple points in here. I'd like to just quickly tell you about a couple of products that I've worked with over the years. And these are ones that Van Dyke's Blueberry Juice and Casey Van Dyke. And the reason I wanted to point it out is that sometimes people think that they're too old to develop new ideas and products. And Casey came into my office when he was 63 years old, and he had an idea for a new product, which over a period of nearly 20 years, he developed and he took to the world. So age isn't a factor that's reducing any of these issues. This is Daniel Lenko from Daniel Lenko Wineries in Southern Ontario. And he was a great producer and decided he wanted to go into making wines. And he actually is able to grow grapes and make wines at a small scale. He sells everything from his table in his kitchen here from January to April. He sells 3,500 cases of wine, and then he's off back farming. So you can mix some of your ideas and value add different things as you're going forward as well. And then Vermeulen Farms here, you're looking at technology being introduced to make blueberry or strawberry production more efficient and improving the quality and utilizing new technology to expand the market and extend the market for your products with your customers. So there's lots of different ways we can take ideas here is what I'm trying to share with you. There's many different things you can look at and many different possibilities. So keep your mind wide open. It's not just maybe a product idea. Sometimes it's a technology or it's a process or a system that will actually give you a competitive advantage that you're looking for. I want to share quickly the idea development resource that you'll be able to download here. And it's idea to market. There's the idea to market success map that I showed you earlier. There's new food and beverage success tips. There's new product development mistake checklist that you can go through and see where you rate on that one. There's an idea development checklist, so that'll help you as you're moving forward with ideas. There's idea scouting tip sheet. So when you're looking for ideas, it'll help you find those ideas. There's a brainstorming 101 how to do cheat sheet. So if you want to do some brainstorming with the group, it'll help you do that. The target customer profile cheat sheet and sample screening questions. And these will all help you take your ideas and develop those ideas to the point where you can actually start to reach that prototype and taking your product to that next step. The quote I'd like to leave you with here today is a person's success if they can get up in the morning and go to bed at night and in between get to do what they want to do. And that's from Bob Dylan. And that's one of the things that new product development can do for some people is that when you get the right product, you get the right idea moving forward, and it's something you really like to do, then that's something that probably is falling into that success category here. So thank you, folks. And I think Emily's going to take some questions now.
Yep. So if anybody has questions, please use the Q&A button, which is at the bottom of your window. As Gary mentioned, we will be sending a resource with all of the list of resources this afternoon. I'll be sending that as a PDF to all attendees. So thanks for coming, and you will get that in your inbox later this afternoon. It looks like we don't have any questions yet,
Okay.
Gary. So you obviously did a good job explaining everything today.
Well, hopefully we've done that and achieved that. That's good. So.
Okay, so we have a question, and it is, how do you build the market before the factory?
Well, that's an interesting question. And the point is, there's a lot of different ways you can do this. One is that you want to build the prototype or the different levels of product or your sample products and go out and test the market. Now, how you do that would be, you really only need to have a case or 10 cases or 20 cases of a product or a pallet of product to actually go out and test the market. And you can get this made by a co-packer, or you can get it made, produced in somewhere like at Perennia. And that gives you something that you can go out and test the market. You're not looking, when you're testing the market and trying to get it going, is to actually make money in that first run. You're trying to make sure that the market is out there. You want to make sure that you have a product that somebody wants to buy. And by creating these prototype products, you can put a label on a product. It's pretty easy to do small brand labels now. You can put it in a package. And what you'll learn from that is you'll learn, is this the right product that people want to buy? Am I targeting the right market? Do I have the right size product? Is it priced right for the product or for the marketplace? Is the package labeling exactly what people want? And is it the right, is it recyclable, for example, if certain people want it? So it gives you an idea to go out and test it before you build that factory. It's very easy to jump in and say, well, I need to start building this whole factory because I have to do it this way. But there's so many community kitchens out there. There's so many places that you can actually get a product started. But I would say go out and build that prototype product as quickly as you can, as cheaply as you can, and take it out and test the market and use that feedback to come back. And as you go through this process for a little bit of time, you'll start to learn if you've got a good product to go forward with. Would be one thing. Then you can start to look at building that factory, because the orders will come in and you can start to be confident that you're moving forward that way. But if you don't, then you haven't spent the money building the factory and you haven't made a big mistake, and you can go back and rebuild the product into a new way. And a lot of people have built factories and found out almost the day after that nobody wants to buy the product. And that can be very expensive and scary for people. So I really suggest you build the market before you build the product, build the factory.
A few more questions have come in. So the next one is, when floating your ideas with others, is there a risk they have the means to develop it much easier than you and could run with your idea?
There probably always is a risk out there, and you can sign non-disclosure agreements with different people. So that's not really an issue when you're co-packing. Most people are used to that kind of thing. So that's not the really big issue. You'll probably find that most people are not going to be able to develop the idea. There's a lot of thinking and things that went in to get to where you are. There's always the outside chance that somebody could do it, but there's always a chance that maybe somebody is interested in it. You can license your product off to somebody and you actually don't have to build it or have the factory, and you'll have the same result out of it. You'll have an income coming from it. But that would be my thought there.
The next question is, how about risk management techniques from idea to production? Will this be covered in upcoming sessions?
Yes, I think we will be covering some risk management as we go forward, because risk management to a large degree is understanding and validating the marketplace. We can all get excited about creating a product, and this is a great product that I think is great, and and I want to invest in it, and it's the best thing that's out there. But we do need to take it to the point of validating it. And in our next webinar, we're going to look at validating those products and ensuring that there is an alignment with some kind of customer need. And we're also looking at, as you're moving forward through a lot of these different stages, we're starting to look at planning. The more planning you do, the less risk you're going to have, because you're thinking about all the things that are going to be the challenges. If we look at what we talked about today, you know, starting to look at not falling in love with your product. Who are you listening to? Where are you getting your advice from? We're going to explore a little bit more about who's going to give you help and where do you get that good help as you go forward. And staying focused. Like there's so many things that we've talked about today that are going to help reduce the risk. If you actually think about what we talked about today and implement them, those are the things that reduce the risk as you move forward. The big risk is producing a product that nobody wants to buy. And everything that you can do to ensure that somebody wants to buy this when it comes out at the end is great. And that really means that you've got to do a lot of customer research and a lot of focusing on what it is the customer wants. And that's what your product that you're going to create is based on.
Yeah, and we have one more question here. We do have a few more minutes, so if you had another question, feel free to submit it now using the Q&A button. The last question here, Gary, which I think we will answer in another session, but you can start to touch on it if you'd like. And it's, how can someone with a prototype test their food or drink product? Should they try a farmer's market, or what other ways can they test with those they think are their target customers?
Well, we will be exploring that a little bit more in the next session, but those are all good, really good points. And I really think that farmers markets are a great place to test products, because you get instant feedback. You're actually face to face with the customer, and you can find out by asking them questions. You know, do you like this product? Is this a good product? What would you use it for? Like you want to be very open when you're exploring at this phase of negative feedback. You want every kind of feedback that you can get, good, bad, ugly, because this is what's going to help you move forward with your idea. Don't be scared of getting feedback. Like, go out and ask people. If there's family, I mean, you can start with family and see what people think, but move out to different groups. You can do different focus groups, maybe community groups. In your community, there's a group of people that would try it and give you their opinion. And you really want to find out all these things as soon as you can, early in the game. And what we're talking about today is idea development. We're still at idea. Like, it can change at that point. So take your ideas, go out, test them with the marketplace. Nobody's really going to probably develop it exactly like you would anyway. Somebody might take an idea, but that's the risk I think we all take with just about everything out there today. You just have to be able to develop it your way, make sure that there's a customer that wants to buy it in the end, and that it's something that you can validate and ensure that that's going to happen.
Okay, and just one more question here before we'll close it off. And it says, testing idea in Nova Scotia, not the same as targeted export market. No. How do you develop an idea with an export target?
Well, almost everybody that exports products will tell you that, or is involved in exporting products, is that you need to develop your domestic market first. So what you want to do is you want to prove that your product has a market in the domestic market. And that's an easier thing to be able to do. If you're trying to just take a product immediately to an export market, that is a really big hurdle and a big challenge. It's not that it's impossible to do, but the people that do that tend to be the people that already have experience in those markets and then have resources to be able to do that. I would suggest that you build your market locally first. Then if it's move it provincially, move it interprovincially, nationally, and then look at export markets if you can at that point. And there's a number of things that are beneficial there too, because one is you start to build up your economy of scale within your production, so that there, when you start to go to export, it does cost you a fair bit of money to develop those markets, and you'll have some extra money to be able to do it. The biggest thing that challenge I find that people run into in developing new products is they run out of money. you know, if you spend all your money developing your product, that's only part of the way. You know, if it costs you X number of dollars to develop your product, it's going to cost you X, maybe 10 to get it to the market. So you have to think about, where am I going to get these resources to market this product? If you're going to an export market, it's even harder sometimes because the people have no idea who you are. They have no idea about your product, and it'll take a fair bit of time and money to get that product either into the hands of a good distributor or to be able to find enough customers that are willing to try a new product. And most people are not all that interested, honestly, in taking a risk on a totally new product. So they want to see a proven history. Has it been selling domestically? And that's one of the questions you'll find people ask is, well, what's your domestic market like? You know, are you selling it here? Because if you're not, then it may be harder to get them interested in it.
Great. Thanks, Gary.
Okay.
Thanks for presenting today and teaching us all about the idea development phase of the Idea to Market Success Map. If your question wasn't answered today or you have a question after this session, please see Gary and I's contact information on the screen. Feel free to email us your questions using the subject line Idea to Market Webinar, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. This webinar was the first of a 4-part series though, so please join Gary and I again for the next 3 Thursdays. The next one will be product development, as we said earlier. Gary also mentioned I will be sending a PDF later this afternoon, so you will get those extra materials to review on your own time. And thanks for joining us today. Our next webinar is next Thursday at noon again, and it's on the business side of product development. You can find this information for this webinar and the rest of the series on the online learning page on Perennia's website. Okay, thank you all for coming, and we'll see you again next week.
Thank you.